Hi, Brian McAuliffe. Happy to be here with Sara Gross on one of this very rare times we do a cog resonance episode. And if you've watched this before, it's where I'm going through my life and meeting creators, people who, for whatever reason, move me in a way that they have taken all the challenges of the day to day life, the wasteland, as it's called, right?
Mm.
Just going about things and they've carved out a space for them to create. And and I just want to make sure that I've been moved. I want to make sure I share that story with the people who take a moment to do this. So, Sarah, welcome,
Thank
and
you. Thanks for
it's
having me.
great to have you. And just a little history. How do you discover these creators in your midst? And this was I went to a bell curve show behind Delaney's house in an old barn. It looked like it was Woodstock, which I think is
Yes.
kind of where the bell curves have gone. Um, and you were there singing whatsoever. And then I think I've caught you a couple of times at the Grey Horse slash People's Pub, and and of course you perform well. But the thing that moves me beyond the great performance is the lyricism, if that's a word. Is that a
Yeah.
word?
Oh, it sure is.
Yeah. Um, so I think it just um, I don't know how to approach this, but you know, there, I listened last night. I listened the last couple of days. I've been just trying to really soak up as much as I possibly can. And where does it all come from? I mean, there's lots of words. I do have to mention that the recording is done really well. Your voice
Thank
is out
you.
front, and this is I complain about this all the time. The back in the period of time they mixed all the vocals at the same levels,
Yeah.
and that was kind of like the thing to do. But if you think about the famous, really famous singers like Billy Joel
Hmm.
and such, their voice are out front. So I am so thankful that um, on first listen I can understand all your words. I
Thank
think
you.
that's meaningful.
That means a lot to me because, and it's very intentional. A, because I'm very lyrically driven with my songwriting, and B, because I am hearing impaired. So I really get frustrated with songs when I can't understand the words because it just gets me out of touch with the listening experience. So I appreciate hearing that because it's done very intentionally
Yeah.
that way. Um, but to answer your question about the lyrics, I feel like I just kind of take in inspiration from everywhere. I always carry either a small notebook with me or I have a notes app in my phone where I will just jot down any and all randomness that comes my way throughout my day. And I use it as little nuggets of inspiration when I sit down and write. And yeah, I think it just kind of comes from your day to day life and the human experience.
Yeah. Do you consider yourself a poet? Is poetry something you either write or read or whatever? Is that some part of not just telling a story, but the poeticness of it?
Yeah, I actually don't see it as much as poetry. I actually spend a lot of time when I'm writing almost like an AP English essay. If I was in high school and I was to write down,
That's interesting.
yeah, I'll sometimes, not every time, but I'll make an outline of the who, what, where, when, and why of the song and really try and figure out the characters and the message and approach it that way. I feel like it frees up a lot of my thinking, allowing me to be more creative with the story. So coming at it with more of a literary point of view.
Yeah,
Um,
it does feel smart. I felt like
Thank you.
this person is smarter than I
No one's ever said that about
am.
me. So like,
No, well, if you don't feel that way, you're good at spinning it that way.
sure.
So I just a couple of things I want to just like take care of early. So the the album that has the song Undertow on it,
Oh wow, yeah,
right? So that's going back
it's a deep cut.
2022.
20, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that you listen to that album and the cadence is nice, it's all beautiful, but then that song comes on and it's really like an Outcast.
Mhm.
Like there's, all of a sudden it's a, um, just which we're not going to cover all of Sara Gross today. So, but now I'm curious about this one. Is that is it's different on that whole album for that song.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
I love this question. Nobody's ever asked me this. So Undertow was the first song that I wrote off of that EP, which I recorded actually with Bill Hafner here on Long Island when they were still living
The
here.
silo, okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I was at the beach, and the waves on Long Island, as you know, are very
Mhm.
strong, especially at Smith Point Beach. And my dad and I were in the water, and the current was really, really strong. And he said, "Watch out for the undertow." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Well, the undertow, it's a really strong current, and it feels like it's pushing you out, but it's actually sucking you in further and further." And I thought he just put that so poetically. And I have a voice memo of me on the beach that day. And I started to create a melody with a little bit of that phrase that he came up with. And later that day, I went home and I wrote Undertow. So it
Yeah,
was actually very inspired by the actual
yeah,
beach.
no, and that's it. It connects. I mean, I certainly picked it out, and in a lot of your songs, there's great harmonies because I know you have a stable of friends that
Yeah.
all have this tremendously um, wonderful, elegant, strong feminine. I can't just say
Yes.
elegant feminine
Yeah.
without putting the word strong in there because I know you all, and um, you're all. That's not like I'm from down south. I know all of you, and you're all really strong, proud women, and I just really sincerely appreciate that.
Thank you so
That's
much.
that you guys are out. It's a tough fight out there for anybody, but
Mhm.
to try to make it in the creative space, um, and and a lot of the material that I'm hearing from this group of people that this whole group of people that it's it's meaningful, it's proactive, it's rebellious.
Thank you.
And I think that's exactly what you need. You can't just say, well, I made this picture and it's pretty, but what's the message? Like,
Mhm.
and I think the messaging is great.
Yeah.
So let me bounce to this particular thing where you cut vinyl live. This is going back a few years.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. So what that experience is like to
Yeah.
say, roll tape and you can't.
Right, you
Um,
can't take it back. There's no backsies. So this was a session that I did freshly out of college, and people pre-ordered direct to vinyl songs that I did. Um, and every vinyl that they receive is its own custom copy of that live performance. So there's
wow.
no other copy out there of me singing that song in that performance. So they would pick the specific song if they wanted, and then I would kind of sing it for them and specialize a message or something. And
That is,
it was a cool
yeah, it's
experience.
really great, and I think it's unique. And of course we've seen, and I'm in the audio video business, we've seen a tremendous move towards vinyl and
Yes.
in general, even so much that I get people in my age bracket that are giving me their like my wife will hear about, oh, so and so's moving, they're giving up their vinyl. I said I want it,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
I've taken all this vinyl and they become back when you bought vinyl. That's you picked the things you liked.
Right.
It was curated by dollars,
Hmm.
not like today where it's just listening. You heard something on the radio, you liked it, you went and invested whatever $10, $20 in an album, and now you had it. And um, I was a DJ in the '80s,
Cool.
so I have thousands of records, and that's when we were dance clubs. Dance clubs are hard to find these days. I don't
Mm.
understand what happened to dance. That's a whole nother discussion.
I don't get me started. I wish we would go back.
It was, I can tell you, it was great. But I have all these records. So I says, oh, somebody will give me a crate of vinyl, and I'll just filter it into the collection, and
Yeah.
then I'll just where I have missing pieces. But Sarah, I can't separate these things from their own crates. They are somebody's life,
Yeah.
and sometimes I get the parents. So these people are like 50, 60 years old,
Yeah.
and then their parents are 20 years old than that. So I have, the Lawrence Welk and all these old, old show tunes and such,
Mm.
but like they become in capsules. So I think for you, this type of thing, having, it's one thing. I have a reel to reel at my house, and you can record a reel to reel, but then what do you do with it?
Right.
But this is like, hey, let's just put this on,
Right.
that type of
Right.
thing. So there's probably a whole bunch of things that go on after this in your, short history. And I know you've been doing this a long time, but from where I am, you still have lots and lots of runway and great opportunities. So this is just the beginning.
Hmm.
You've you wrote a song which I've heard a number of times that really just it hits me with um, the fact that the two words are oxymorons, killjoy.
Hmm.
Like, and the way you sing it is got a thing. Can you just somebody had to have asked you where that came from
Yeah.
before?
Yeah. So that was one of those little nuggets of inspiration that I had sitting on my phone for a long time. I didn't mean to kill joy. I love to take a turn of phrase that you hear all the time and then turn it on its head in some way. And I just didn't really know where it fit for a while. And I wrote that chorus and I didn't really know what it meant. Sometimes I write songs, it almost feels like a premonition. Like I write it and then I don't know until months later what that song actually means and why I needed to write that song.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was one of them. And it wasn't until months later, I had, freshly graduated college, probably right around the same time I was doing this session. And I was grappling with the fact that I was shedding my adolescence and stepping into adulthood per se.
That'll
And
kill joy.
yeah, I know. And I was moving back into my childhood home and freshly, a new person since the last time that I had been there. And it almost felt like this innocent, childlike version of myself was gone.
Yeah.
And so I decided to write the song kind of for my younger self and kind of naming my younger self Joy. And this was almost a love letter to the kid in me that keeps the dream alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what the song is about.
That's great. And I, encouraging if you can pause this video if you want and just go listen right away to Killjoy and Undertow and all the other work. The I certainly feel very, very powerful about your lyrics, but the music is done extremely well.
Thank
You're a great
you.
performer. And where does that, so being a good writer and being able to write something succinctly and that has meaning is great. Where does the performance ability, were you like as a kid, you know, doing this,
Mhm.
playing guitar as a little kid or singing and such? And
Yeah, I mean, I primarily was a dancer for many years. I was a competitive dancer from age 5 to 16. So a good portion of my life was on stage, but I was always part of a team. And I wasn't really comfortable just by myself on stage for a long time. And I ended up picking up the guitar when I was in middle school. My older brother, Ronnie, is also a musician
Mhm.
and a performer, and I saw him start to do it. So I naturally wanted to do everything he did. And
I've seen him play as well. He's fantastic.
yeah, yeah. And he's just this larger than life kind of person. So when I thought, maybe I'd give a crack at it, I go on stage and I just completely freeze. I was petrified. And it took me a long time to kind of get over that stage fright. But when I learned that I could make money in high school by playing cover songs, I started to do that a little bit more. And I think that was where I started to really practice
Yeah.
being in front of people and being on stage, sort of speak. And that kind of helped me conquer all of that. So, yes, I was comfortable on stage, but when I went from dancing to music, it was a big change for me.
So, I'm going to change the image here for a second. The This is to me the songwriter image.
Mhm.
It's not the performer image. So
Yeah.
you know, if somebody asks you, understand you're in music, what do you say? Do you say I'm a singer-songwriter? I mean, you can do both, and I'm not in any way, shape, or form. But do you consider yourself more of a word author than a musician, or
Mm.
do you consider yourself more a musician that happens to know how to write really well?
Yeah, I mean, it's really I always just say I'm a full-time musician, and to other people, that might mean just singing and performing, but you really have to be a jack of all trades at this point in the music industry in 2025, because I just don't know how you can survive any other way full time. I am songwriting for myself and others. I'm producing for myself and others. I'm playing cover gigs, and then I'm going on tour and performing my original music. And then when I'm not doing any of that, I'm sitting in front of my computer and sending emails and figuring out my finances and
The
trying
business
to,
side, yeah.
yeah, the business side, the
That's
social
is
media,
yeah,
it's
that
everything.
whole piece. And I've seen so many really great gifted artists, and you say, why aren't they moving forward? What's the problem here? And well, they haven't been discovered yet, but they haven't really done as much as they need to. So
Mm,
I'm glad to see you traveling. You can saturate your own market pretty much, but sooner or later, that's not going to get you. Everybody who knows you in your community knows you. So the fact that and we're going to cover where you're going to be um, in a bit. So talk about this current project,
yeah.
right? So when I saw this, I said, well, I saw a picture of you in the Rogers Library or some library that's a beautiful, old turn of the century building, and
Yes.
then all of a sudden it's the library, and the library for me, the word and everything from what libraries mean today to um, you know places I've been to where they use books
Hmm.
and things as tools in other ways. So I won't go into all this because we'll be here too long. But so why the library? That's just my setting up the question. And tell me, what is this about?
Yeah.
We're back to words again.
Yes. I it has double meaning, but the primary meaning for me is actually a saying that my grandmother has. She's about 87 years old, and she's the oldest living person in our family that, is living. And she's always telling us, you need to write down all of these stories because, in her words, when I go,
I read this.
yes,
It's on. You have it on your site. I definitely
right,
read it.
right. And she says you have to write it all down because when I go, the library is closed. And it's, her just dark humor way of saying that we hear all of these stories about our family and they're kind of passed down from
Yeah.
generations. And sometimes you wish that you just had it written down, or you had these things in writing. And it's almost lost upon us now because everything is so accessible that it almost feels like it's just this void of content,
Yeah.
like we all take a million pictures and a million videos all the time. We have text messages between us and our family members, but we don't there's so much to sift through. It almost gets completely lost in the mix. And so it's something that we talk about a lot in our family, just, going through old photos and videos and stuff like that. And I thought, well, the medium that I tell stories is through song. And so I want to do that more and more in a conceptual way with this project. So I wrote a series of songs that, to me, talk about my family, talk about where I was, where I am today, where I'd like to be, and, how my familiar roots made me the person that I am
Yeah.
today, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
That's a great concept. I think we have a picture of you in the library,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
this is
that's
just a
the
wonderful.
the Emma S. Clark Library in Eastawket.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
just a great thing. I think, you obviously as a business person that's marketing themselves, the imagery of you, what's going to catch somebody's eye, and I think you represent yourself exactly like you sound.
Thank
She's
you.
in a library. All right, she's smart and attractive, and she's somebody that hey, what is she thinking right then and there, and
Mm.
that type of thing. I know we're going to spend a few minutes. We're going to let you play because I do want to do that, but we have to stop and set up for that. But before we do that, let's just talk about where you're going. Now, I know because you're going to do a wonderful thing for the Patchogue Rotary, our Monte Carlo
Mhm.
event, which there'll be links for everything to do with Sarah's music and her performances, as well as if you want to see her right here in Patchogue by the water, supporting over 40 charities that the Patchogue Rotary supports. So I really appreciate you coming and playing.
Yeah,
And
we're
it's going to
excited.
be outside. There's a multi-tent situation. There's a whole bunch going on, and it's going to be if the good Lord makes it a little bit of sunshine and some
Yeah.
wind, we're going to have a blast.
Sure. Yeah, I'm
But
excited.
besides that wonderful thing you're doing for us, you are going to be a lot of places, and some of them you've already been.
Yeah.
So tell us about your library tour coming up and where people might find you.
Yeah. So my band and I, the Killjoys, we've called ourselves now. We've been on and off the road really since this year has started. We've been in Nashville, we've been in Ohio, we've been in New York City. We just did a little upstate run with the Bell Curves. And next weekend, we're going to Baltimore, Washington, and Philly. And then we're going to be playing a whole bunch of shows around New York and on Long Island. And yeah, it's been
That's
really
great.
fun.
And then if this is easy enough to find, we'll put the link to Sarah's site in the news. So um, if there's something, if for someone who's watched enough of this already,
Mhm.
um, is there something you want people to know? Like this is a tidbit that really you should know. Why should we listen? We're I find you a true creator. I'm definitely interested. Um, well, what would be a short thing you could tell us that yeah, this is a song you should listen to, or
Mm.
this is really what my message is about family, about this. Do you have any little anecdote you can share with us that would say, "Geez, I got to check that out."
I mean, that's a lot of pressure. um,
Sorry.
I think my goal really at the end of the day is to tell stories, and I wouldn't call myself specifically a country artist. I think genre is a funny word, but I think at the heart of country music is stories, and I just love stories of all kinds. And I think that's what kind of keeps the tradition going. And I also feel like in this day and age and in the world that we're living in right now, the best thing that we could do for ourselves is community and keeping a scene alive.
Yeah.
And I really love being a part of a scene and watching how, this group of people, like we said, it could be so many things. It could be many bands. It could be, we were talking before the interview about other scenes that we love, and that is what keeps the spirit of rock and roll and music and
Yeah.
community alive.
the
So
the
you need
creator
it.
that creator scene, whatever it is, I can't explain it. It is captivating to me in many ways, and it's captivating to me in the music scene. But I've gone to steampunk festivals, and that's a scene in of itself. And I've gone to Renaissance fairs and such, where people, not just performers, but people actually getting dressed up that are all found this is their hobby.
Yeah.
And so many things that we want broken down in society are broken down in these scenes and these communities.
Yeah.
The um, I can tell you that the South Shore music scene, which I know best,
Yeah.
I've been to Austin and in the city and things like that. We've just experienced that scene through somebody else's eyes. But here, even the people who are the most accomplished are so humble,
Yeah.
are so, I talked to Andy Falco on the phone yesterday, and
Mhm.
he's, here's a guy who's been really successful, and everybody knows his name, and
Yeah.
he treats you like,
He's just hanging out
just
at the
hanging
bar.
out. It's nothing, nothing, and Andy's an example, but there are
Right.
plenty of other people in our midst who have who don't have any airs and
Mhm.
who are as willing to listen to someone else's story.
Yeah.
And songs are stories, but music put to a story is just wonderful. And that um, I don't know if I kind of think that this is special. Maybe it's not. Maybe everybody's got that little, but it's pretty amazing here.
It really
And
is.
then thankful to the people who have made that happen. Linda and Irene and the people that
Mhm.
are there, Jack LaCatra and a number of others. The list goes on of people who kind of provide some framework, and
Yeah.
that's what we're trying to do with Long Island Stage and these other projects that we're doing, like this one
Right.
is let's find some way to get that information out.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It is pretty amazing. Like, we have these scenes, and I think as a creative now, it's all so focused on social media, but it's the in-person events like we're talking about with the Rotary Club and all of the venues that we all hang out in and see live music in. Those are the things that keep it alive. That's what makes it worth it to
yeah.
do all of the marketing, all of the promotion, and it's happening in real time, and it's it's special.
All right. So you're going to be next at in Baltimore, right? Is that what we
Yes,
see?
this is actually wrong. So I'll actually I'll actually be in Washington, DC on May 23rd and then Baltimore and then Philadelphia.
All
But
right. So you're back in town
yeah.
at the end of the month.
Yes, my
All right.
next New York show will be in Ridgewood, Queens on the 27th, and then I'll be playing in Huntington on the 30th, and then Patchogue on the 31st. We're opening for another Long Island-based band, 9 Days, who has had many successes in
Yeah.
their career. And then we'll be back at the People's Pub. Well, then we have the Rotary gig, then the People's Pub in August. So
That'd be
plenty of
great. Yeah.
opportunities on Long Island.
So please put Sarah on high rotation on whatever service you use and check out those gigs. All right, we're going to break for a minute and kind of rearrange things, and then we're going to just hear some right here in the studio. Stay tuned.
All right. Thanks so much for watching. This is Sara Gross, and the song is called In My Nature. This old kettle I got from my cousin. He told me it wasn't up for discussion, 'cause there's a lot of things that I will inherit, and may I live long enough to regret it, 'cause somebody must have lost their marbles and let it roll on the floor. Now it's my mess to clean up, ain't it? I'd have to wager it's in my nature. This old backbone I got from my father, I reckon it just make my life harder. But I was careless, I took him for granted, but he forgives all my misunderstandings. Somebody must have lost their marbles and let it roll on the floor. Now it's his mess to clean up, ain't it?
I thank goodness I look like my mother. She's a star in every room she uncovers, but she over decorates our kitchen. I wish I knew just how much I would miss it. 'Cause now I'm living in my own apartment with somebody that I love. Now it's service to clean up, paint it, they say, just like us. No matter where you're living, and you'll break every curse you were given, and you'll figure it out much later. We have to wager it's in your nature. Alrighty. This song's called Killjoy. Touchdown in Suffolk County, Joy was an anxious flyer. About 20 years before her mama even thought to retire. But she never suffered, always had a good roof to live under. But she forgot she had it made. She cursed each freckle on her face and let a good thing go to waste. I didn't mean to kill Joy. She never got to make it. I didn't mean to kill Joy. She just got a little taste of freedom. I didn't mean to kill Joy. Now she's playing songs in her local bar, begging for pennies in a mason jar to see a better day. She's too damn good for what they pay her. Got bloodstains on her beat up Taylor. She blew them all away. But hey, I can't give an honest review. There's not one thing I know how to do, but I know there's power in 22. Oh, I didn't mean to kill Joy. She never got to make it. I didn't mean to kill Joy. She just got a little taste of freedom. I didn't mean to kill Joy. Well, I've never been this far before. I'll never be this far behind again. I've never been this far before, and I'll never be this far behind again. I didn't mean to kill Joy. She never got to make it. I didn't mean to kill Joy. Sometimes I still see her in the mirror. I didn't mean to kill Joy. Ooh.
Cool.